No spin, no bias, no censorship. I'm Dan Wootton. This is a special Boxing Day edition of Outspoken featuring uncancelled interviews with Liz Truss, Allison Pearson, and Kevin Spacey. Please click to subscribe to our brand new independent news source. Turn on the notification bell, then you'll be alerted to our brand new live shows, uncancelled interviews, and special royal episodes. The best way to support Outspoken is by subscribing, if you can, to a monthly paid membership for access to the Uncancelled After Show, which returns Monday to Friday in the new year. You'll also get my exclusive reporting and columns, access to our live chats on the Substack app, and the chance to join a thriving community. Most importantly, Substack is a safe space free of censorship. Your support from just £5 a month plus VAT if you're in the UK not only gives you 30 minutes of extra content on weekdays, it also allows me to continue making this independent daily news show. You can also sign up completely for free. I understand times are really tough. www.outspoken.live. But now, let's go. I always say, and I really do mean it, that Liz Truss is the best Prime Minister that we never really had. And it's becoming clear to people that she was taken down by a combination of the deep state, the civil service blob, the globalists, and the mainstream media. And it's very clear to understand why. Because Liz Truss is on the side of the people. She is on the side of the English, and she is prepared to raise issues like, for example, the sweeping spread of extreme Islam and the cover-up surrounding the Southport massacre that no other politician is prepared to go to.
It does appear to be a difference of approach between Islamism and Islamist activity and the so-called far right that Keir Starmer made the centerpiece of his commentary about the riots.
Yeah, he kept describing it as snake oil populism and using the term far right. Well, I'm sorry, Liz, you're not on the far right. I'm not on the far right. He has created a straw man here, hasn't he?
I think that's right. Yes. Now, of course, there are elements, that, and I don't obviously condone anything like racism or, inciting violence or those types of activity. But what has been created, I think, is a chilling effect on people able to express their honest views. And that is very dangerous in our society.
Honestly, that weekend, I was speaking to some of the biggest figures on the right, both in terms of commentators, some who are still in the mainstream media, and they all said that they were now scared about speaking out because of this crackdown. And of course, we did see, Liz, some people post pretty silly things online that went too far. But isn't it a question of degree and a question of there being some sort of equal playing field when it comes to punishment? And that didn't happen. I mean, Peter Lynch, who was a campaigner for Brexit, someone who is very much opposed to the World Economic Forum, someone who the mainstream media dismisses as a conspiracy theorist, but I certainly don't. He received 2 years and 8 months for being at one of these riots. He wasn't violent at all. He simply yelled inappropriate abuse to the police. He took his own life in prison. Then you have Lucy Connolly. She's the wife of the Conservative Party MP who made an inartful post on X in the wake of the Southport massacre. She has over 2 years in prison. Then you have Julie Sweeney, who is the grandmother who posted to her Facebook group about what happened, immediately felt very bad about it, deleted it. She is also locked up for over 2 years. By contrast, we have a man like Mohammed Hassan, a Muslim man who was filmed at a petrol station beating up 3 Asian women because they were in Western dress, and he received a suspended sentence. Likewise, Hugh Edwards, paedophilia. He didn't spend a day behind bars. I mean, when I just give you those examples, can you understand why the public think there is two-tier justice?
Well, some of these sentences do seem anomalous. This goes back to the point I'm making about the judicial system.
Yeah.
If we are clear about how judges are appointed in our system, it's obvious judgments have to be made on a case-by-case basis, according to the evidence. And we might not know all the details, Dan. But the problem is when the system is so opaque and people don't understand how people are appointed, what the procedures are, that is when you can lead to questioning of individual sentences. I mean, I think it is about restoring accountability to our system so that people understand who is responsible, because at present, that is simply unclear.
And do you remember, Liz, the mainstream media went absolutely crazy when Steve Bannon, who himself has just been released from prison, mentioned Tommy Robinson.
Just in time for the great...
Yes, for the great victory. And he just mentioned the name Tommy Robinson. He's a big fan of Tommy Robinson's work. And he didn't even ask you directly about him. You didn't comment on him. But that almost got the mainstream media frothing at the mouth to cancel you again. Now, of course, a bit like Steve Bannon, Tommy Robinson is behind bars here. Very similar situation, contempt of court. He released this movie, Silenced, against advice. He's been locked up for 18 months, was sent to Belmarsh initially. Now he's an HMP Woodhill. Again, do you think that's a mistake?
I mean, the situation of Steve Bannon, my understanding is he was put in jail because of contempt of Congress, because of refusing to appear in front of a congressional committee, which sounds pretty ludicrous. And, when I did the interview with him, I was simply answering the question he'd asked me. I think we were discussing the appalling grooming cases that continue to take place in the north of England. And by the way, and not just in the north, actually around England, and still no local officials have been held to account. Nobody has been held to account who's aided and abetted and turned a blind eye to these crimes taking place. So I was keen to address the issue. It wasn't endorsement of Tommy Robinson. I wasn't deeply aware of exactly what he had done, but it's the whataboutism of the British media of making the interview about that rather than the fact that children are being raped and violated systematically in towns across our country. And I just find that
think is a bit more important.
I find that sort of there doesn't seem to be any reason about why, and the reason is they're more interested in having a go at me as a politician than they are in talking about the truth of what's happening in our country.
Absolutely.
And that is how far I think the mainstream media has just gone astray. If we go back 30 or 40 years, there was a much greater commitment to reporting the truth, which there simply isn't now. You don't get the same level of investigation into what is going on. And I think that's very damaging. So all these people who spout off about democracy, I think that's damaging for democracy. The fact that we don't have a media that is concerned with the issues the public are concerned about and are prepared to unearth difficult truths. Instead, they practice a sort of gotcha process, trying to attack anybody who doesn't go along with the orthodoxy.
One of the massive challenges, though, Liz, and I know it's one that you are determined to tackle, is how the right in the UK can somehow unite to do the right thing, to save the country, to stop the wokery. And in the US, you know how difficult it was. I mean, Donald Trump had to take control of the Republican Party by stealth, and for a long time they tried to stop him. We have a situation over here where you've got Tommy Robinson, you've got Nigel Farage, you've got Kemi Badenoch, and you've got the more traditional Conservative Party. You describe it in 10 Years to Save the West as survival of the wettest when it comes to lots of the Tories who remain in Parliament. So before we get on to that, can I first ask you about Kemi Badenoch, newly elected?
Yeah, I just want to say, I mean, I
Conservative
wouldn't
Party
necessarily include all of those figures in the future of the right. For example, not Tommy Robinson.
leader. Got it. So Kemi Badenoch, you didn't publicly endorse anyone in the campaign. You had ran against her and beaten her with MPs when you became Prime Minister. Do you think she was the right choice for the Conservative Party?
I mean, the reason I didn't sort of put forward who I thought should be the leader of the Conservative Party is I think the biggest problem the Conservative Party has isn't the leader. And I comment on this in my book when I say at the general election, some of our best MPs were wiped out. You know, Jacob Rees-Mogg, Brendan Clark-Smith, some of the people who really understand how our country ticks and what needs to happen. And the problem is, in the Conservative Parliamentary Party, quite a lot of the people who were the architects of our huge defeat have been left there. I describe it as survival of the wettest. So I think the problem either leader would have had is getting the parliamentary party to agree to the policies this country needs for serious change. And what do I mean by that? I mean, we've got to dismantle the unelected state. We've got to make the Bank of England accountable. We have to make the justice system accountable. We've got to get rid of all these quangos like the OBR. We have to appoint the top level civil servants. At present, they are agents of the status quo, and you simply won't get Conservative policies enacted with those people in place. So all of those things need to happen. And I don't think the Conservative Parliamentary Party as it is prepared to take on the establishment and prepared to take on the status quo. So what I think is needed, and this is also what happened in America, there was a very strong movement in the Tea Party who wanted real change. That then morphed into the Make America Great Again movement, which were the big supporters of Donald Trump. People like Bannon, who I'm a massive fan of, former Goldman Sachs banker, understood the system and how powerful it was and how it needed to be opposed and how to take it on. And that is the kind of thinking we need in Britain. And, you know, there will be some people in the parliamentary party that when the weather changes, they will change their views. I've seen quite a lot of that. And there will be others who maybe don't want to be in the Conservative Party anymore. And I do hope that the movement can attract some of the best thinkers in reform as well, because we're going to need people like Farage, as well as people like Jacob Rees-Mogg, as well as, you know, great people that are in the Conservative Party. I'm a fan of Andrew Griffiths. I hope I haven't condemned him by saying that, but I think he's a very, you know, a very sound economic thinker. We need all of those people on the pitch, but we need a movement behind them, because what I found when I was trying to enact Conservative policies in Number 10 is I looked behind me, and you know, there were some great supporters like you, Dan, but there wasn't a huge crowd of people actually calling for the change our country needed.
No, they were out to get you from day one. They were out to get you from day one.
That's certainly true of some of the parliamentary party, but the point I'm making,
and the media, though,
is there wasn't a Tea Party movement, there wasn't a MAGA movement actually counteracting the power that the elite have in Britain.
No,
and that needs to happen as well. You're not going to do it just with, you know, you could have, you know, the new Winston Churchill, leader of the Conservative Party today. If there is not a movement in the country backing that person up, they will not succeed.
Are you committed then to staying in the Conservative Party?
I'm certainly committed to working in the Conservative cause. I'm a member of the Conservative Party. I've got no plans to join any other party. But what I care about is saving this country. I think we're in serious danger of another 1970s style financial crisis. We're in danger of blackouts from our absolutely dreadful energy policies being pursued by Ed Miliband.
Ed Miliband is mad. He is
And
mad.
we are in danger of real issues in our towns and cities by not taking on Islamism.
Yes.
I'm worried about the encroachment of Sharia law. I'm worried about the grooming gangs that aren't being properly, where the authorities aren't being properly held to account. All of these things worry me. These are the things I care about. I would like to see, the best of the Conservative Party and the best of reform work together to be a real force at the next election.
And I think what a lot of my viewers are wondering, Liz, is how that can practically work. Because a lot of us did vote for Reform UK at the last election. And I'm sure you can understand why, given what was being offered by Rishi Sunak. And you're very tough on Rishi Sunak in 10 years to save the West. So how will this come together? And do you see any scenario where it's Nigel Farage who could end up leading the Conservative movement, where it's Nigel Farage who could end up Prime Minister by 2029?
I think it's very difficult to say what's going to happen from here, but there's no doubt in my mind that at present we do not have a concerted political force that is capable of delivering a Trump-style victory in the United Kingdom. And that is what we need to get to by 2029. I think the first step is the movement. It's the Tea Party MAGA movement that is going to mobilize people across our country who are currently disengaged from politics. And it was pretty high turnout in the US election because a lot of people were motivated to come out and vote. So that is the support base that is needed. And then, as I've said, I'm not going to name names. I've talked about people that I think who get it, who understand the change that's needed to our bureaucracy, the change that's needed to the way this country is governed, because Parliament has been hollowed out. I mean, Parliament does not really talk about the issues. It's become a forum for expressing disquiet rather than a decision-making body driving the country forward, and that all of that has to change. And I believe that these are the changes Trump is going to bring about in America. I think it will create an even bigger difference between Europe, which is in the world's slow lane and getting slower, and America, which is speeding ahead. And I hope that will galvanize and encourage people in Britain.
Can David Lammy stay as Foreign Secretary when he has described Donald Trump as a neo-Nazi and not even deleted the post on X?
Well, it doesn't seem particularly wise by Keir Starmer to keep him in that job. I mean, I don't think he's doing a very good job anyway. He's given away the Chagos Islands. He's cozied up to China. I don't think he's adding any value in that job. I don't think the Labour benches are replete with talent, but I'm sure they could. I mean, would they even be able to find an MP who hadn't said something offensive about Donald Trump?
No.
I don't know.
No, I mean, Starmer has, Angela Rayner has. It's how they think.
They all. It's a sport for the Labour Party, being offensive about Donald Trump. So, yes, I think he should be removed from the job. I don't think he is doing a good job. I also think Ed Miliband is a disaster zone. And I think they need a chancellor who's realistic about the country's economy and how much needs to be changed.
Do you think Ed Miliband's the most dangerous man in Britain?
No, I think Keir Starmer is.
Chilling, isn't it? Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, the man who should actually be keeping us all safe, is in fact the most dangerous man in Britain. I was also incredibly interested with Liz suggesting that there is a need for the Conservatives and Reform to come together. I would have said this was true a few weeks ago, but judging on where things are heading, I really do wonder if Reform UK need to in any way even consider some sort of relationship with the Conservative Party, be it an electoral pact or not. And it was fascinating, wasn't it, to see a former Conservative Prime Minister, a proud member of the party who has donated and spent her career really backing this party, giving such a tepid endorsement to the Conservatives. Liz Truss, I think, would be very welcome in Reform UK. Now, Allison Pearson has been another beacon of free speech in 2024. And after being visited by the police over a post on X, she took the bold decision to reveal all to Outspoken. Allison Pearson, I mean, seriously, I know this is almost sublime. It's ridiculous. But I don't see any sort of funny side to this. I think it's terrifying. It's chilling. It's a waste of police resources. And according to the briefing to your newspaper today, the police are still investigating this as a crime.
Well, I've been very keen to come on Outspoken, Dan, as you know, and but I didn't know I'd be coming on as a potential jailbird.
Perfect day for it.
I'm very glad the great Dan Wootton is prepared to associate with a non-crime hate incident. Yeah, it is, at one level, it's mad, isn't it? It's farcical.
Ludicrous, yep.
What could I possibly have done that would deserve a visit from two policemen, given, as you know, and the viewers will know, that they don't go to burglaries or certain domestic violence things, they don't attend. So the fact that they would come to my house, two of them, to talk to me about something I posted on X, Twitter, a year ago, does seem a bit of an overreaction, doesn't it? But as you say, Dan, it's not that funny, because I have to say it was horrible. It's my country, and we were there on Remembrance Day, when, of course, we commemorate all those amazingly brave, mainly young men, who gave their lives for this country so it could be free and not under the jackboot of tyranny. And here we are with two coppers the same age as many of those guys who gave their lives, coming to my door, and in what I took as being tyrannical, really, just totally inappropriate. And as you said, I asked them, what is this hateful tweet I posted? We're not allowed to tell you. Who is my accuser? We're not allowed to tell you, but they are the victim, not the accuser. Doesn't sound like justice, does it, Dan?
I mean, that word should not be used, by the way. It should always be accuser. And of course, it's not justice at all. I mean, if it was justice, you would absolutely be told what the post was, so you could presumably justify it from a journalistic or a commentary or a free speech perspective. But I mean, Allison, come on, I read most of your posts on X. You're not posting anything illegal. Come on.
Well, I also have whatever 160,000 followers. I haven't had any of them saying, we saw something disgusting you posted. Obviously, we all get a bit of argy-bargy, don't we, from the odd person who says we disagree with you or you're horrible or whatever. And particularly, as you mentioned, Dan, since I started championing setting up the British Friends of Israel to try and help British Jews after the 7th of October massacres, I've got a lot more nasty commentary. You want children to die, that kind of thing. But
and that's what this is about, isn't it? You have clearly been targeted by the very powerful pro-Hamas lobby here. And they try lots of different methods. They try mass reporting. And in this case, I would say they're actually manipulating the legal process to try and shut down fair debate about the actions of Hamas after October the 7th.
I think until we know what the tweet is, I can't be sure, but I would bet my bottom dollar that it was people on the left who had been digging through my Twitter feed, looking for something that they could say caused offence. And I think the bar should be set very high for these things, stirring up racial hatred, stirring up whatever. You know, have I caused rioting? Have I caused attacks on people? I certainly hope not. And I think the trouble is, Dan, is it's so subjective, isn't it? What you and I would see as freely expressing our centre-right views, other people would see as hateful. But we can't have a legal system that's based on subjective views, can we?
No, and also, we don't even have the resources to police speech. I mean, the idea of regulating the internet is not only nonsensical, it's practically impossible. So just give up. What has depressed me a bit today, though, Alison, I mean, I've been looking on X and you have been trending and lots of people are talking about you. We saw the very important intervention from Elon Musk, but I turned on PMQs earlier, not a mention. I've watched a lot of the mainstream media today, aside from GB News, Sly News, BBC, aren't following up on this as one of the biggest stories of the day. And when I've been looking for senior politicians who you would think, especially on the conservative side of things, this would be a cause they should be championing, the best I've got is from the former Home Secretary, Suella Braverman, who said, more from the thought police under a Labour government. We need to stop policing words on social media and tackle actual crime. My message to Labour: protect freedom of speech, stop the overreach and focus on keeping our streets safe. But I don't hold out much hope. And she's copied in Elon Musk. But Alison, do you see what I mean? It's like, where are the other senior politicians?
Yeah, well, Robert Jenrick reached out to me, who was the Tory leadership candidate, and he said he thought it was disgraceful. I've actually heard, Dan, from lots of so-called normal people saying they've had very similar things happening to them. And the Free Speech Union thinks this is up to about 65 a day of these things now, if you can believe it. So I think what's happening is that police forces find it relatively easy to sit on their backsides and scroll through social media. Plus, a senior Home Office source has said to me that chief constables, some of whom are quite woke, rather like pleasing the pressure groups who come to them with racism and whatever, Islamophobia, so they can say, oh, it's great, we issued, so many non-crime hate incidents, and then they'll all go away happy that that's going on. And if you look at the figures, astonishingly, for Essex police solving crime, hardly any solving of burglaries or indeed sexual violence. The highest thing, one of the highest things is racial and religious aggravation and indeed hate crime. So that's where they're really good, is thought crime, not very good at the crime which actually endangers people's lives or makes them lose property. Or I would think that most of the people watching us, Dan, would want their taxes spent on actually policing as we understand it, stop preventing the public doing harm and catching the bad people, not going around and, getting people like me who could have said something a bit, slightly indiscreet or whatever. I'm not saying my Twitter record or whatever's X record is perfect, but I certainly think that this heavy-handedness is just un-British. Well, it maybe now in Soviet Britain it is British.
The new Britain, Soviet Britain, it's utterly terrifying. And the thing is, Alison, I look at all of this from a macro point of view, and I believe it is intentional. Because if you look at the Southport massacre, and again, huge credit to you, huge credit to the Daily Telegraph, you are pretty much the only mainstream media organ, and your column specifically on the first day of this revelation, that has specifically questioned the cover-up over Axel Rudakabana, over the fact that he was charged with terror, that he was producing ricin, according to the charges, that he had an Al-Qaeda manual. Most of the media has literally ignored this. No one has asked a question of Keir Starmer or Yvette Cooper saying, what did you know when? But your column on this was something that bucked the trend, really, of the rest of the mainstream media. But I think it's intentional because what they did is try and terrify the plebs. Terrify people like me, terrify people like you, make us think, goodness, we could all end up in jail. They did that probably knowing, according to Liz Truss on this show and according to Priti Patel in your newspaper, the Daily Telegraph, who both say that Yvette Cooper and Keir Starmer would have known about those potential terror charges, about the discovery of the rice and the discovery of the Al-Qaeda manual. And yet they were still going out and talking about misinformation, talking about the snake oil of populism, And I think this was all intentional. There is a genuine attempt by this Labour government to make people too terrified to speak out.
I think that's absolutely spot on, Dan. And I think what we always see when these potentially Islamist-linked crimes are committed, there's an immediate a sort of schedule of things they do, which, as you say, is warning people against speculation, criticizing people for potential racism, misinformation. Now, I think the majority of British people knew after that Southport horrific massacre in which 3 little girls died. I think people knew there was something very wrong with that crime. And I was enraged because the first, I think from the police, the first statement was to describe the attacker as Cardiff born. Now, you know, Dan, I'm a proud Welsh woman. And I thought, we don't have many Welsh men who allegedly run amok with a knife in a room full of little girls. So I think people immediately knew this smells bad, doesn't it? This is something completely other, alien, horrible. And that's why people were getting upset and wanting to hear. And the authorities didn't want to disclose what they knew. And as you say, quite rightly, don't tell me they wouldn't have known pretty quickly that this individual was allegedly making a bioweapon in their kitchen. That information is going to go straight to the Home Secretary and the Prime Minister and to the security services. So it's extremely serious. And I think the idea is, let's not give these plebs a reason to kick off. But in fact, what happened was that backfired, and then people got very upset and angry. And I would say that the alleged murder of 3 beautiful little girls was a cause to get upset and to be very angry and to wonder what manner of person is this that's living in our country who carries out this barbaric slaughter. But as we know from my visit from the police expressing any of this, I mean, who knows, you know, they can call anything racism, Dan.
Yes,
even if you're...
And the tentacles, though, Alison, what really concerns me is they run so deep. You know, it really is the deep state, the blob in action, to the point where the Speaker, Lindsay Hoyle, discovers that Richard Tice is intending to ask a question about the cover-up in PMQs and literally opens the session by saying that he will not even accept it being raised, the question being raised. And then the mainstream media have all followed up on that. I mean, I know that it can be published. I mean, the Daily Telegraph, I presume they legaled your piece. They're not going to publish it unless they've checked contempt of court ruling. Not one mainstream journalist, and they've had lots of opportunities, has asked Keir Starmer or Yvette Cooper what they knew when. So it really does feel like the true sense of a cover-up where all of the establishment are working together to stop a conversation from being had.
Yes, and you know, you could expect at least a few raised eyebrows when the police insist that it's not terrorist related. Well, we'll have to take their word for that, Dan. But the presence of an Al-Qaeda how-to manual, including details about lone attackers and so on, you know, some people might suggest or allege that there was some circumstantial evidence that made this look quite a lot like something a terrorist would do. But I did write something in the Telegraph, and it was very heavily lawyered, and you have to proceed carefully because if any legal proceedings are underway, you obviously have to be very careful not to prejudice the trial.
Look, keep being brave because we need you. I mean, honestly, Alison, there are so few people who I trust in the mainstream media anymore, and you are one of the handful. Don't let them get to you because that is what they want. I'm delighted to see the Telegraph backing you in such a big way today, acknowledging this is such a big story.
Essex Police has issued a statement describing me as having given an inaccurate and unethical account of what took place. Now, I gave a very quick account as soon as it had happened to Toby Young, who's the General Secretary of the Free Speech Union. It was to the best of my recollection. Obviously, I was very shocked. So I didn't know what happened second by second. But the key points are they wouldn't tell me what I'd done wrong, what I'd said, and they wouldn't tell me who'd accused me. So those key points remain. And I think probably Essex police are extremely embarrassed and defensive, as we've now shone a spotlight on their very poor record of solving other crimes while being prepared to harass blameless middle-class ladies of Essex.
Leave the middle-class Essex woman alone, please God. Absolutely outrageous what Allison Pearson had to go through. Within days of her recording that interview with me, Essex Police did decide to take no further action following mass public and media pressure, but the chilling impact of that decision remains. It's not a surprise to me that membership of the Free Speech Union has absolutely soared as a result of the, I think, crackdown on free speech, dystopian crackdown on free speech in the wake of the Southport massacre. We should be embarrassed in the UK. Our politicians should be embarrassed in the UK that Elon Musk now describes us as a totalitarian police state. Coming up in just 1 minute, my exclusive interview with the Hollywood superstar Kevin Spacey is going to get very emotional. But first, you know how often I talk about the need for free speech to be protected? Well, I've been increasingly thinking of the need for personal protection from snoopers, bad actors, and hackers online. And I'm delighted to tell you I have now found the fail-safe solution. But what's more, this VPN or virtual private network is also a life changer when it comes to providing you entertainment and information from anywhere in the world. So let me introduce you to Surfshark. I love it. It's such a good service, totally easy to use. And what it does is encrypt all your internet traffic, translation, keeping your online activity safe so you can shop, stream, browse, bank online in complete privacy. But the benefits of Surfshark go way beyond keeping you safe online. It allows you to access your favorite entertainment and news shows and news channels and international streaming services like Hulu, iPlayer, HBO Max, Peacock, Amazon Prime, Disney Plus, and Netflix. So within seconds, you can be watching any of those services as if you're in another country, which often gives you access to lots of content which may be geo-blocked. Very helpful as well if you're traveling for work or on holiday, because it means when you're overseas, you can continue watching your sports content or other content actually from home, which is also geo-blocked. It's really a good protection against creeping censorship too. I always use the example actually of France, which, believe it or not, makes it impossible to watch Rumble now. But Surfshark allows you to watch anything, anytime, anywhere. It is true freedom. A VPN is also a big money saver because you can access sales on websites that change their prices depending on where you're accessing them from. There are other benefits of Surfshark too. You can use it on unlimited devices, meaning your entire household can stay safe with just one subscription. There's over 3,200 servers in over 100 countries. This means a world of choice is at your fingertips with 24/7 customer service too. Really helpful actually if this is your first time using a VPN, although I promise you I've signed up quite a long time ago now, gone through the whole process. I love using it, but I also find it incredibly user-friendly. So surfshark.com/outspoken is the address for an extra 4 months of Surfshark at an unbeatable price. Check this out too. If you're not totally happy with the service, after 30 days, you will get all your money back. So let me just repeat that website address now, www.surfshark.com/outspoken for an extra 4 months of Surfshark at an unbeatable price. But now, back to the show. One of the biggest disgusts I had this year was Channel 4's desperate attempt to cancel anyone who they decide unpalatable. We saw it with Russell Brand, and then they came for Kevin Spacey. Kevin Spacey, a Hollywood legend, Oscar winner, who faced false accusations and cleared his name in courtrooms in both the US and the UK. However, Channel 4 still want to bring him down. It is a sick sport, really. So in his first ever interview about the shocking allegations against him, but also Channel 4's shocking hit piece, he decided to speak out to Outspoken. And I started asking Kevin about his controversial decision to come out as gay after first being accused of sexual misconduct.
Oh, you mean when I tripped over my hockey stick and came tumbling out of the closet?
Well, yes, look, let's be honest, Kevin, it wasn't the most graceful coming out of all time.
No, not at all. It was terribly timed and thought out.
But I'm guessing because of everything that was going on, you didn't appreciate that at the time?
I didn't appreciate much of anything at the time. I mean, look, to try to understand this in some context, how it came to be, that statement, I had been working with Evan on finding a way out of the closet. And he was incredibly encouraging and supported me to do that, was helping me to accept who I was. And he felt that if I was ready to come out of the closet, then he wanted to be completely supportive of that decision. But after being so fiercely closeted for so long, I had no idea what was on the other side of that door. So we were looking for a subtle way in which to be able to reveal myself without making too much of a big deal about it. And in 2016, I was nominated for an Emmy, very honored to be so, for House of Cards. It was like my 8th or 9th nomination, but I never won. Now, the Emmy is a female statue. It's not like the Oscar or the Tony, which are male statues, which I have been fortunate to have won. But Evan came up with this brilliant idea that if I were to win, that I would take a hold of the trophy and look at it briefly and then say, it sure is nice to hold a woman for a change.
Well, that would have been an incredible coming out.
Yes. Well, unfortunately, I didn't win the Emmy in 2016 or in 2017.
Okay, so maybe we blame the Emmys.
Well, the Emmys, understand, are in September. And so 1 month later, I'm hit with the rap allegations. And against better advice from Evan and others, I decided to come crashing out of the closet because I'd already made the decision to come out. And of course, I'm so ignorant about all things gay that the only thing that occurs to selfish me is that some guy is accusing me of something, and so I'm being outed. That's what my brain is telling me. I'm not paying attention to the fact that Rap claims he was 14 years old, and so just like everyone else who saw me as Frank Underwood picking up this feeble 14-year-old, when in fact I was an unknown 26-year-old at the time, but I just wasn't thinking of anything other than this being an outing, which I still have to say I believe was his intention as well.
Why do you say that?
Well, if you look at the BuzzFeed article, which I have here, Anthony Rapp says, where is it? At that time, I wanted to scream to the rooftops, this guy is a fraud. Okay, but why didn't he want to scream to the rooftops that I was a child molester or a sexual abuser? If that's what he was accusing me of having done to him as a child, why is he so concerned about me being called out as a fraud? What came out actually quite clearly in the court is that Anthony Rapp had been jealous of the career that I had made for myself by fraudulently staying in the closet.
And I think we'll learn that jealousy is often a big part of these cases. But is it true, Kevin, that the judge actually ordered Rapp in the end to pay you money?
Yes, he did. I believe $40,000 was as much money as the judge was able to order Rapp to pay me, which was certainly nothing like the $40 million he was asking from me in his trial, and certainly not enough to cover my legal bills.
So I'm just looking at the check there on the screen. Who is Keller Anderley?
Well, that's my law firm.
Okay, and this was a jury trial, right?
Yes, it was. And I thank God for a jury of my peers. It took them 45 minutes to unanimously. Over the past handful of years, I have reached out to many people to make amends.
Can you elaborate? How did it go? Did they accept your apologies?
Well, I mean, that's really between me and them, but I can tell you that I asked everyone to be completely honest with me, and they were. And I heard things that were not easy to hear. It was not a pleasant experience, but it was an important and necessary one, and has really, really helped me a lot. I've grown a lot. And I'm truly grateful to all of them. And I would like to think, maybe hope, that they considered me a much better person than I was before.
So given all of what you've been through, all of what you've clearly lost, does it bother you that some people in public, especially in the public eye, think that you haven't paid a big enough price?
Yes. But I didn't want to play their game.
And what do you think their game was?
Well, they want me to go on television and apologize to the world for every terrible thing I've ever done. It's not that I'm above saying I'm sorry, but as ironic as that may sound, I find it entirely self-serving and disingenuous to offer some blanket apology on TV. The only reason people do that is it's some sort of PR reason when they're trying to quickly fix something. Well, you know what? I tried that with my apology and I failed miserably. Look, I've learned a lot in the past 7 years. And believe me, I've had plenty of time on my hands to listen. And it's become my opinion that if you haven't actually taken inventory of your life and begun to deal with the issues that you needed to deal with and make the changes you needed to make, it's meaningless and completely impersonal to apologize on Oprah or Anderson Cooper for something you might have done to someone else. I wanted to ensure that by the time I did speak out now publicly, I could be confident that I've taken responsibility for the mistakes that I've made. I worked them out with those that I've hurt. And that said, nobody in Hollywood has ever presented a path back for me. There's no coursework material I've been given, no boxes to check, no nothing. It seems that some are content with just canceling me forever. It's a life sentence. And the pain that has caused me and my friends and Evan and my family has been immense. And I take full responsibility for my past behavior and my actions. But I cannot and will not take responsibility or apologize to anyone who's made up stuff about me or exaggerated stories about me, because that's what the press wants.
No, I don't blame you. You shouldn't have to do that. But it is, I think, one of the most chilling aspects of cancel culture now, that there is no way back and people seem to revel in who they can bring down, whether the facts actually bear out or not. But look, regardless of what has happened, no one can take away the fact that you are one of the greatest actors of your generation, if not of all time. After winning your second Academy Award, I think it is worth reminding people that you actually moved to London. You came here to revitalise what was at the time a boarded up Old Vic theatre. So you did a great service for the people of this nation. And actually, I've spoken to a lot of people about this, and I want you to know that there are many, many ordinary people, especially in the UK, but around the world too, that appreciate the work that you've done, both on screen and in the theatre, and believe, like me, that you need to come back. I think it's important, actually, that the media narrative here is not the narrative shared by the public, because actually there are millions of people out there who were fans of yours and want to see you act again.
Thank you for saying that.
No, look, I completely mean it. I completely mean it. So were you close with the people on House of Cards?
Family. I love them. I love those people so much, all of them. And I was so excited to go to work every day. It was one of the best experiences of my life. And frankly, to have only 4% of the people to say crap about me is it's a report card I can live with, especially in today's age where everyone is divided about everything.
Yeah, I guess another way of looking at this is that you're a president with a 96% approval rating.
Well, that was for different reasons, Dan.
Oh, goodness me. I have to say, I miss Frank Underwood, Kevin. House of Cards was one of my favourite ever dramas. Do you think, again, now that you've been cleared, that there could be another season of House of Cards?
Well, I think Frank Underwood is still very much alive and ready to bring his particular brand of fun to the private sector.
Wow, that is a show I would definitely watch.
And since that interview, I have to say, because I keep in touch with Kevin and Kevin's team, I have to say things are turning around. There was a lot of support in Hollywood. A lot of people were outspoken after his Outspoken interview. And while Netflix is remaining coy, oh, goodness me, just imagine how good it would be if Frank Underwood did return eventually. Kevin Spacey is an innocent man. He has been proven an innocent man multiple times. He needs to be uncancelled. Now, thank you so much for your support of Outspoken. The best way to do so, though, is by subscribing to a monthly paid membership, and you get access to the Uncancelled After Show, which returns Monday to Friday in the new year. You get that alongside my exclusive reporting and columns, access to our live chats on the Substack app, and the chance to join a thriving community. This is all hosted on Substack, which is a safe space free of censorship. Your support from just £5 a month, plus VAT if you're in the UK, not only gives you 30 minutes of extra content on weekdays, it allows me to continue making this independent daily news show. I would love your support in 2025. Completely understand, by the way, if you're unable to pay, all you have to do is sign up for free at www.outspoken.live. Part 2 of our biggest uncancelled interviews tomorrow, 5 p.m. UK time, midday Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Do hit subscribe right now on YouTube and Rumble. Enjoy the rest of your Boxing Day, and most importantly, I promise to keep fighting for you.